Welcome to the XYZ Experiment podcast. It's me, Dash, your Gen Y. I'm here with Luke, your Gen Z, and Fiona, your Gen X. And today we are going to talk about all things privacy and security and all of these types of elements that are big conversations in our society at the moment. And I guess why I've been thinking about it quite a bit is I've been doing a few different projects where I have the privilege of talking to people about what do they think about their data being out there and their privacy, and what would they expect as a bare minimum for security in terms of their personal information. And it's been interesting to observe people either being very nonchalant about everything being out there and other people being very careful about, I guess, the digital information that they put out there and how easy it is to find people. And the second part that I found interesting, I was in a meeting recently with someone and we were talking about different people. And during our Zoom call, they would constantly Google people, bring them up and say, oh, look at like, this is what they've done, this is what they haven't done, etc. And then I was like, have you Googled me? And he was like, of course I have. Of course, I know exactly what you've done. And I was like, how much information is out there about me? And so it just made me start to think about how much is out there, how much was in my control to be out there, because things often get put out on the web or shared with other parties that we may not know about. And just wondering about your thoughts about privacy, security, all of those types of things.
You're gonna laugh. I've been catching up on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills recently,
Yeah.
and they had the season finales. And what they're doing is they're having big arguments about chat GPTing each other and seeing all the information about each other. And then,
Oh,
yeah, and
Mm.
seeing what chat GPT says about themselves and about other cast members, and then reading it out on the show, So sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. So I decided to do it to myself as I'm watching this show. I thought, oh, I'll put it to Chat GPT. So I put to Chat GPT, tell me all about Dr. Fiona Kelly, a dentist in Melbourne. This is only a couple of days ago. And then Chat GPT gave this whole rundown of me from what it had found on the internet, which was
Wow.
hilarious. But I realized a lot of it had been taken from stuff that I'd written about myself for my CVs, for like
Mm.
websites on different dental places that I've worked. And I thought, oh, I wrote that. Oh, I wrote that.
but how did it get that? It's not like you posted your CV online.
No, but I mean, what I mean by that is you put your like type of resume onto like the website so patients can have a read of you
Oh, okay.
to
Yeah, yeah,
say,
yeah.
oh yeah, that sounds like the type of person that I'd like to go see as a dentist. And so
Yeah,
Mm.
ChatGPT was throwing that back at me. So I
yeah.
sounded pretty good. I sounded pretty good because which was really funny to read. And it didn't say anything that surprised me, like, because I thought there might have been a lot more, particularly because of this podcast. And maybe if I'd put the words in podcast, the XYZ
Yeah,
experiment, I wonder if more would have come up about
yeah.
that. And the
Mm.
other thing I found is it had all of my work stuff it knew about me, but it said nothing about my private life. Like
Oh,
it
that's
didn't
good.
Mm.
mention that I was married, didn't mention anything about my family. Like it didn't seem to have, scraped for that information. It was really fascinating, really fascinating.
Interesting. Goodness, I'm going to do
Yeah.
that.
I think it's really interesting talking about privacy now because, and I'm just trying to think back as someone that like grew up at like from a very early age exposed to social media and things. The concept of technology creating like a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, and this idea that you could get people to like know who you are like across the globe, right? It almost felt like sacrificing a level of privacy was okay. And I
Mm,
also wonder if there was this thought of like, yeah, they know my name and my email and my phone number, but like, what could they possibly do with that, right?
yeah.
Mm.
And now we're starting to see, after kind of now we're at like the decades of personal information being collected, what that can actually look like.
Mm.
And I think it's also coincided with just like a general, I don't know if you guys are finding this in your circles, but I feel like I'm finding it in mine. There's far more of a like this almost hostility and distrust for a lot of the kind of major, just use buzzwords like those major corporations that kind of run the world, run and, utilize our data or at least have our data. And I think that we're now spending a little bit more time connecting the dots of like, okay, when I give out my personal information to X, Y, and Z, it actually leads to this, whether that's like more calls or you get put on these lists. Like, I think we're now at a point where we're actually starting to realize the value of that personal information and like that digital like data, that like what that actually looks like to be, I guess, navigating a digital world, right?
Would you put your information onto one of those hereditary sites, those DNA sites? Because they sell that data and that's pretty full-on data that they're selling,
Yeah.
I reckon.
Not the gimmicky ones. Like I
Okay.
know that there's like actual medical ones that do DNA screening for you
Mm,
personally to know
mm.
your health risk. I have a colleague who does that.
Yes.
But to find your ancestors, no, because I do think there's too much risk. And then I'm also like, oh, what if then one of my ancestors they find out is a criminal and they catch them through that way? Because that seems to happen quite a lot, which
Yes.
might be a good thing, but it's also kind of confronting um, pieces of information. So I don't know, would you, Luke?
See, that's a great question, and I'm gonna throw it back to you in a sec. I have done that.
Wow.
And
Okay.
the reason that I've done it is not because I like had any interest in doing it. It was actually given to me as a Christmas present by a family member who was really, really interested in it.
Mm,
And what I found really interesting about that, and this is again going back to that idea of now we're putting the pieces together about what data actually looks like in terms of what people can do with it. This is like someone from a different generation that when it comes to even like putting their email address into certain things that they're not fully comfortable with, they will say, I don't want to do that. I'm not comfortable with that. But they were happy with not only themselves but other family members, like giving samples of DNA in exchange for the novelty of knowing this like connection, right?
Wowzers.
Do you guys have, when you think about, okay, I want to be like when I want to be private, like I want to protect my own data and my own information, are there certain things where you're like, I would definitely not put that online, or I'll definitely not sign up to X, Y, and Z, or are you kind of a little bit more blasé about things like social media, but then when it comes to like, yeah, DNA stuff, you're like, definitely not.
I'm so I'm such a dual personality that way because I would never give my DNA to a website ever because I don't know what they're going to do with that information. And but and I get upset if people put pictures up of me onto like Facebook and that without me knowing. That actually really bothers me because the reason being is that I might not like the picture and I don't want that picture of me
Ah,
out
Mm,
there without like I don't mind if someone says, "Oh, look at this picture, are you happy with it?" I go, "Yeah, sure," and they're going to share it. I'm absolutely fine with that. And I particularly find that not so much with people like maybe yourself, Dash or Luke. It tends to be people like good friends of mine who then have a very wide social network who I haven't seen for years and years and years. Like, for example, a school network, and they put my photo up, and the person, I just feel like there might be judgment. Isn't that weird?
okay.
Yeah, like I
Interesting.
mm.
might get judgment on those sorts of things. So yeah, so I don't like that. Yet here we are doing a podcast. Here we are putting our faces and our voices out there, and I'm fine
Yeah.
with that. And I'm sharing all sorts of information about my life. So it's such a dual
But you're in control of
split
it.
personality. I think that's what it is. I'm in control in what I share. And then when I edit it, I go, well, I'm not going to, I shouldn't have said that. I'll take it out.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. And it is interesting because for a long time I had my Instagram as an open account, like a public
Yes.
account. And mainly because I'd enter competitions and I'd, tag restaurants and, all of those types of things when I'd go out and I'd engage with authors on there. And when you've got a closed account, you can't do that really. Um, so, but then I just started to feel I was getting all these people following me who I had no idea who they were. And, also people could just log into Instagram incognito and look at your page and find out all of this information. And so I just shut it down. Like I made it a private account. So now when it's only my followers who see any of the, which, and I don't have that many followers to be honest. And so, yes, all the likes and everything drop, but I'm kind of like, again, I'm in a bit more control as to who's actually seeing it. And I kicked out a lot of people off my Instagram account
Mm.
who I didn't know who they were. But I'm also like you, like I have a dual I guess cognitive dissonance with this because I do a lot of public stuff, even for work, and I'm like on webinars or that kind of stuff, which will go public. Like it will be on web pages, things that I've been recording. I mean, this podcast as well, and I'm fine with it.
Mm.
And I don't actually know why.
Yeah.
And I've never signed permission for that either.
Oh, right. Okay.
Mm. When it comes to, because what we're talking about now with, I guess, social media and like people tagging and posting stuff of us and our like our likeness being online, we're talking a little bit more about individuals having the opportunity to like engage with us, see our information, potentially make judgments about the information that has been shared of us with or without our permission. Do you spend much time thinking about the information you give to companies and what they might do with it? Because to be honest with you, I'm going to say I don't
You
at
don't
all.
at all.
No, not
So would you
really.
sign up to anything and everything?
I don't sign up to everything and anything, and I actually did go through and delete quite a few accounts over the last like year because of that, like like the spam emails and things you get. But I would say that that was more again the inconvenience of having like spam as opposed to like worry about what like nefarious
Mm.
consequences might come from sharing my information.
I'm so shallow. I will sign up to something if there's a reward at the end of it. No, seriously, like Mecca,
If they're
I'll
going to
sign
give
up for that.
10% off.
Points,
Hmm.
I'll sign
Yeah.
up to that because
Yeah.
I get a benefit from it. So, and I know they're using that information for other things, but if there's a benefit for me, I'm really thrilled about that. So, yes, I will give them my email and I will give them, I actually have another email that I give. So,
Yeah.
at any time, if I decide I don't want them to do that anymore, it's very easy for me to, it's an email I use only for that sort of stuff. So, I have an email for that.
Hmm.
So yeah, so if there's a reward, yes, I'll sign up to a company like Dimox, because I get great discounts with it, because I've signed up. So yes, I'll do that. I do think a lot about the companies that I do sign up for. So yeah, so yeah, so a reward does reel me in, and I'll give you here's my info.
Hmm.
How about you, Dash?
Well, yeah, I do. And I guess I'm picky about the companies because of their loyalty programs. Yeah, is probably what sucks me in because you gain
Mm.
points every time you purchase something and then you get a voucher and then you can, whatever. So I am a massive sucker to that. But you've just got me thinking because, and I know this might be like a very technical example, but in Australia, my health records didn't take off, right? So
Hmm.
that was basically where you could opt in and your doctors and the hospital and all of those kind of people could log into your health record, see all the tests that you have, all of your medical information, etc. It was highly secure, but it didn't work because most Australians said, I'm not doing that, which I find fascinating because it actually saves the health system. I should get off my soapbox, but it saves the health system a lot of time because if in your My Health records they've got a record of blood tests you've just had, they don't have to run it again.
Mm.
Um, but we will sign up to loyalty programs. We will sign up to streaming services. We'll sign up to all sorts of different things for a service, for a reward, as you said. But we won't sign up to things that will make our health system better.
Is that because we don't trust the government? Is
I
that
think
is that
there
what
is a
that is?
mistrust with the government a little bit. And
Yeah.
it is interesting because even with the people I've been talking to as part of this project, some of the stuff they'd say is, oh, I'm okay with that government department, but not with that government department. And
Hmm.
how do I know that that government department isn't going to get my information? And I was like, oh God, this is like next level. So, okay, health might be okay, but is immigration okay? Is justice okay?
Hmm.
All of these things where you go, oh, what would happen if they had my information? Not that people were saying necessarily that they were doing anything wrong or anything like that, but there's a suspicion of some of these, maybe ones that are a bit more legal, could land you in jail kind of situation.
I learnt something recently that actually really surprised me. If you have an autism diagnosis as a child, and that then goes on with you as an adult, because that's no longer a private bit of information about you, if you apply to migrate to a different country, autism can be something that stops you from being able to
Yeah.
migrate. And I was horrified by that. Like I only learnt that last week, that 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 private medical information can stop you from, as an adult, future things. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
So I know even like as type 1, as people living with type 1 diabetes, there are certain jobs we're not allowed to do.
Mm,
Mm.
And so we would have to disclose that.
yeah.
Well, I mean, we probably wouldn't apply, but we would
Yes.
have to disclose that information to potential employees.
But maybe some
It's,
type 1 diabetics don't realize they're not suitable for those jobs. You know what I mean? Not everyone has that disseminated information.
that's
And
true.
yeah, and they've applied for it, not realizing that they shouldn't be doing those sorts of jobs at all. It's yeah,
Mm.
and so then is it your health privacy, like, do you have to disclose that? Well, you do in certain situations, I think. But yeah, it really is a dilemma that way. You have to be careful too, like on this podcast, I have to be careful not to disclose information about my family that they wouldn't be comfortable with.
Same.
Like
Yeah.
really, really important that I don't do that as well, or about my partner, or about my work, or, I do actively think in my mind about, will this be okay to be out in the public domain saying this? Would that be okay? I do think that as we're talking. I do. Do
Mm.
you guys think that as well?
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
because it's something that obviously my family, the people, like the anecdotes that I share, I haven't gotten consent from everyone to
Yeah.
like say certain things. And it kind of makes me wonder as well, like, is there an irony there in like
Mm,
the fact that like, I don't know, we're talking now about how, we're very picky about how, like, what we put online, and we're like, for example, putting our Instagrams on private, but then we're
mm.
okay giving Meta all of our information anyway.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, I definitely think about it with the podcast, and I definitely think about it on other public platforms. Like, I think the other thing I think about is photos of kids.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I would generally not, unless I had permission, put photos I've taken of my friends' kids or my family's kids, unless they're old enough and they have their own accounts, and I don't see a problem with it. And now that my account is private, I guess it's different. But it does make you pause and think about what is out there. But there are serious. Okay, so here's another scenario. I shared, and we don't actually have this anymore, but I do really want it. I should ask whether I can put this back on. But there are a lot of people who have trackers on people's phones. Like, you can track your friends, your partners, your family members to see where they're at. Um, I don't have that enabled, but I kind of see the value in it. I know that sometimes when a few of my friends and I are going to a restaurant and we're like trying to make sure that we're all kind of aligning and meeting up, you can temporarily share where your location is and how far you are. But what do you think? Like, would you ever let someone always have knowledge of where you are?
It's a good question, and for me, the answer is yes. And again, this is an example. It's not like a safety thing. It's actually like, I mean, it is in one way, it is a safety thing no matter what. But it's just like the novelty of it. Like a couple of my close friends and I will have like it on just to like find my iPhone. Just as you said, we're meeting up, and it's like, cool, where are you?
Yeah,
And it's funny how we don't kind of think about what the consequences of that are, but because it's a novelty, it's okay.
but also now the internet knows where you are.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Fiona, have you done it?
I have done it with my husband, and I've done it with a good friend of mine, as well. The one thing I do have, I've got a story about it, is I've got one of those tags on my keys
Mm.
and gave my keys, like I give those keys to guests when they come. And so I've had a couple of instances where once one of my sisters texted me, said, "Do you know where mum is?" And I said, "No." And then I suddenly said, "Oh, let's see where the keys are."
Yeah.
And then I texted her back and said, "Mum's here. And this is where mum is." And then another time I'd given the keys to one of my other sisters and I was meeting up with them and I was trying to get hold of them and they weren't answering their phone. So I looked up where the keys were and then I went and found them on the street here in Melbourne. And they're like, "Oh, fancy bumping into you." And just went, actually, I
Well,
just
they're
looked
your keys.
I just looked where my keys were and I could see her face just go, "What?" Like, because they hadn't
Yeah.
realized there was a tag on there. I have the tag in case the keys get lost. So,
Yeah.
which did happen to me once. I got to explain. I want to explain to listeners why I do this because it's a funny story. I was in the Woolworths in the city here, which is massive underground Woolworths. I dropped my keys in Woolworths, didn't realize, went walking around, got home, and then thought, "Oh my God, where are my keys?" Looked up on my phone and my keys were at Woolworths. Went back to Woolworths, and but it won't show you like within. It shows you with like within 10 meters of the keys. So myself and the Woolworths workers are looking on the ground trying to find my keys. And then I remembered with that tag, you can tell it to make a tune. So I went back really late at night and said to the tag, "Start singing your tune, whatever it is, like please." And then we could hear it going tweak, 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 tweak. And we found
Wow.
it. We found my keys. And someone had obviously kicked them underneath a shelving. We would never have found them without that tag ever. Like
Yeah.
they were gone. So I think those sorts of devices are wonderful for those
Yeah.
sorts of reasons. I really do.
But there is a downside, I guess. I mean, you are the one who has access to that location.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, there is a downside, I guess, of people who might be using it to control their partners or
Partner.
their um, family members. But, then there's also people who use it because they, give it to their parents who might be elderly, who might be wandering, who might be getting lost, all of those. So there's pros and cons. And I think it's just understanding it. But then I'm always like, where does the location information also go to that we haven't given it permission to? Because it's
Mm,
online, like it's a
mm.
map online that's live.
It's true. I told my mum that I had could see her location, she was actually quite upset.
Hmm.
She wasn't happy about it at all. And I didn't think she would be unhappy. And it wasn't something I'd thought about because it's just I have it on my key ring, you know. And then also she said to me, "Oh, my phone kept telling me someone's that there's an air tag around me." And she didn't understand. She didn't understand
How
what
does
that
your
meant.
phone tell you there's an air
Oh, so
tag?
if you have an air
What?
tag that's not registered to you, so
Oh,
say my mum's carrying my keys and it's not registered to her, if she has an iPhone, that your iPhone will actually tell you there's an air tag following you. It'll actually tell you that.
Hmm.
So that's one of the safety features they've put in. So, people put them into cars and all sorts of stuff to
yes. Track
stalk
people.
people. Your phone will tell you that there's an unregistered tag, meaning not registered to your phone following you.
So
Yeah, but she
interesting.
didn't understand what that meant. So yeah. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So I explained it to her. She's okay now about it, actually. But it was just that initial concept to her that I knew exactly where she was that upset her. And I get it because for me, it hadn't worried me at all. It's only because I was telling her in a joking way, going, "Oh, we were looking for you. I just looked it up and saw where you were." And she was like, "What?" She was
Yeah.
really like, and she wasn't doing anything bad. She was just out at the shops, but she was like, "What?"
Hmm.
Really horrified her.
Definitely
Interesting.
feels like we're still kind of at maybe the tail end of that exploratory phase of figuring out what does digital privacy look like? How do we maintain it? Can we sacrifice parts of it for like these modern conveniences without sacrificing all of it? And
Mm,
probably still trying to figure out who might be like considered a bad actor and what does it look like when your privacy is kind of taken away as well as like your autonomy as well.
And I think one of the things that I find fascinating now is that breaching privacy is like a form of terrorism now. And so,
Mm.
basically hacking into hospitals, hacking into all these digital systems can be used. There's bad hackers out there in all sorts of countries, and they do it basically to grind things to a halt and often will demand money or demand something in return. And you just think, wowzers, like this is a
Mm.
new world we live in. But it does have massive consequences. And so the security requirements are increasingly getting stronger and stronger and stronger because people learn how to hack them. And then so I just feel like I'm constantly having to go, oh, okay, now we have to do this. Oh, now we have to do this. Oh, now we have to do this. It's a very evolving space. So if you're not in it, and I'm not pretending that I am, I'm very peripheral to it, but I just had to log a cybersecurity form
Mm.
for the place that I work at and for projects that I'm doing. And I was just looking through the questions, just going, wowzers, this is full on.
Mm.
But you would find that with your work, Fiona, like any health place has like high security.
Yes, and I ask the patients a lot of questions, and sometimes I can see they're uncomfortable with those questions that I'm asking, but I have to ask them.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
have to ask them. Sometimes people will say to me, why is that relevant? And I'll explain why it's relevant, why I need to ask that question. Yeah. So I have to have a good reason to ask that question.
Yeah.
Otherwise, some people don't like being asked those questions, but I don't ask anything that's inappropriate, but there is some information I need to know. And as soon as I explain why I need to know that, then they tend to be, well, not they tend, they always are. I get it. Okay. Just have to
Yeah.
explain why you need that information. But I can really see some people bristle when I ask some questions. And it can be something so simple, like something to me that seems like nothing, like the medical history. And they were just like, it's amazing how many people will say to me, oh yeah, I'm taking medications, but it's not relevant to my teeth. And it is. It really is. I need to know that stuff, you
You're
know.
swallowing it.
Yeah, yeah, I just need to know
Mm.
that stuff, you know. So it's really interesting to do that. So and talking about privacy as well, just with a generational lens to it. A few years ago, they used to say that boomers and Gen X were downloaders, so we don't load up our information, we just download information, and that millennials and the younger generations, Gen Ys, are uploaders. The
Mm,
millennials were the first uploaders, which is Gen Y, to upload their information onto the net. And then, myself and the boomers, we all just took that information down. But I think a lot more boomers and Gen X now are uploading their information with all their family photos on,
Facebook.
Facebook and all that sort of stuff. They're getting more and more that way as well. But I'm just interested, what do you feel Gen Zs are? Are they uploaders or downloaders, do you think?
I think still uploaders, I
Yeah.
think, but definitely growing uncomfortability about probably not uploading things. But
Mm.
again, I think there's more of a shift now to institutions and what are they doing with our private information, because
Yeah.
now you're seeing more like aggressive targeting of ads, those
Oh
kind of
God,
scam calls and
yes.
things. And so I think there is definitely, I think, a resignment, like a comfortability with just uploading different things. But and again, I think there's probably an irony there, because where you're uploading is probably also the place where the data is most likely being used for nefarious purposes. But definitely more of a, like, I see a lot of, when I'm on YouTube, there's a lot of like advertisements within YouTube videos for sites that like can tell you whether or not your information has been in data breaches, and like
Mm.
actually reach out to corporations and say that they want you off lists and things like that.
Yeah.
So I
Mm,
think it's definitely becoming more important for like younger generations.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I feel like what I have observed, because I have friends across the generational spectrums on my Facebook and Instagram. I feel like the younger generations will post like almost these artistic photos of scenery, or like if it's like the back of their head, or it's like a blurry-ish photo, so they're not as easily identified. I'm always like, what is happening with these photos? I feel like Gen Y still posts photos to an extent, but I think we've started to find ourselves a bit cringe on that. So we don't post every single photo that we've ever taken on that trip that we've just done. But wowzers, the older generations on Facebook post everything, and they'll check into, like, I am right now eating at this place, you know, with like a location check-in, and you're like, don't do that. Like, what? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
But the other thing that I heard in the news, which is a little bit scary, is some of the electric vehicles and how much data they collect on you and your conversations that you have in the car automatically.
Wow. Wow.
So
Yeah.
that's a new era we're entering into. So it's not just locations with the GPS. It's like they can record your conversations.
Wow, way. That would be pretty crazy.
Well, what are they going to, but also I'm like, okay, filter through that many conversations if you want to. Like, what are you going to
Yeah.
find? For what purpose, people? For
Yeah.
what purpose? So I think I'm okay with data sharing as long as I understand how's it being protected, what purpose people are collecting it for. Like you were saying, Fiona, if you're asking a particular question on a form, do I understand why that's important? And yeah, I have, as I've said, locked down my social media so it's not public. But then we do this podcast and our faces are public. So are our voices.
Hmm.